Do you thrift broken pieces, or do you have broken pieces in your stash that need a makeover? Well, on today's video, we're going to go ahead and patch up some pieces. So welcome in everybody to Emily's Upcycled Home.
So before our piece looked like this, it looked like this. They were originally upcycles painted a beautiful white, distressed back gold elements and staged up. And then something happens and I end up with this and this.
So raise your hand if that happens to you. I'm not so alone if your hand is up. But let's go ahead and start off with our first part of our project, which is the top half, our holder.
So this is actually the top half. This is where the candle holder would sit, or the candle. And I'm thinking I want to flip this over to have the heavy base at the bottom and come in and kind of camouflage this up here and build around it, making a whole new top here. So I have these little rulers, wood rulers or slats you want to call them, and I got them off of a Whatnot show. I'm going to come in and just measure up the edges here, mark my piece, and then with my miter saw, I will put all 4 sticks together and then cut them one time. To attach my wood pieces, I'm coming in with a combination of Gorilla Wood Glue and some hot glue. Make sure your hot glue is very hot. So these are the 4 little pieces I cut out, and I'm just going to position them to the top of the piece, camouflaging up all that broken area. I have to go a little farther down so that I get into covering all those pieces. You see there, I did put that glue in the center and that hot glue around it. And then I'm adding extra glue into all the little crevices on the top here with my wood glue or my Gorilla Glue, and pushing that up to level everything out. And with my hot glue, I'm going to fill in all the gaps at the bottom, making sure I have a firm hold with these wood slats against that project piece here. And I repeat that process of wood glue, hot glue, and our little wood slats. Now I have little gaps here that I'm going to fill with some hot glue, fill in all those little spaces to even and level things out. Then I have some extra material here from our stand that I'm going to chip away to even out that surface. Then with some wood glue, I go ahead and add some extra glue and a wood round that you can get off Amazon. These are just coaster rounds I find come in handy for a lot of different projects. I'm going to flip this upside down and let this thoroughly dry. So here is where we start building those decorative elements and camouflaging all those wood pieces. I'm coming in with DOS air dry clay, and this is just a simple way to transform your pieces. And also I am coming in with the ILD trimmings mold here. We're going to use this beautiful scalloped edge strip here, applying in my DOS air dry clay into that piece of molding, smoothing that out, and then pulling off our clay with the beautiful design here. Now I'm not looking for a perfect look, you guys. This is going to be a rustic layered piece, but I do want to add in this trimming at the top. And to attach everything, I am using Gorilla Glue here in this clear gel form, just applying a generous amount to our wood and then applying our beautiful molding to the top of it. I'm going to repeat that process to fill in a leftover gap on our piece, coming in with that molding and adding that extra little piece to this little gap that we have. With my little popsicle stick, I am smoothing out and taking off any excess clay and rubbing things smooth with my finger. And then this part, I decided to come in with this piece that I eventually take off. So I didn't really film it, but if you like this piece underneath, you can go ahead and add that. So I came in with some wood squares from Hobby Lobby. I thought I was going to put a wood round on the top of this piece, but I went ahead and chose 2 wood squares, one on the top, one on the bottom. Come in with a generous amount of E6000, go around that edge of our piece and attach that to our wood base. Now I'm going to do a matching square for the top, repeating that process of coming in with our wood glue. But first we want to position this how we want it. Now you see in this film part, I still have that little molding, but we do take that off. So on that wood round, I just go ahead and place my E6000 and come back in with my wood round. Now you do want to let this all thoroughly dry for 24 hours before you do anything with that for a better bond to your piece. Here I'm just coming in with some water and a little brush, and we are going to smooth out our clay, making it a little bit cohesive with our piece here. And as I'm working the clay, this is where I kind of decide to take off that extra molding. Really didn't like it. I filled in all the gaps with extra clay there, and then we continue on with our brush shaping and forming our clay to our piece. I found some chalk paint from Rust-Oleum in the color Vintage Gray or Antique Gray, and that's what I'm going to use for my base coat so far. I'm going to layer up everything as well as the wood pieces and give this one cute stand look. And once I have this all going on, I'm going to dry it, and I'm not going to worry about all these imperfections here, you guys. I'm coming in with layers and textures, and we're just going to blend everything and make this piece look very cohesive with all its various layers. I do come back in with my brush and blend everything. So this sat for a while after that first segment, and then we're going to come back in. I'm going to layer up that top layer, give it a little bit more of a paint finish on the top, and then just go in with some actually this is Antique Wax by Bear, and I'm going to just layer up that wax into everything, really caking it on, and then just to have it a little bit more pliable and easier to work with, I add in a little bit of Bell clear wax just to help me blend in everything. I want this to be very aged, very cakey with that wax, and very kind of dingy looking almost. But we're also going to come in and wipe off any excess and making sure all that wax gets into all those little crevices, building up that depth and that darkness to each side of our stand here. Now, if you like your piece as is, you don't have to come in with the dark wax. I know everybody doesn't like that dinginess. So personal preference, you guys. Now, there was a dent in there. This has been sitting for a while. So I went ahead and added some imperfections all the way around the wood piece. And if you notice, kind of banged too hard. So I end up hitting off that top and reattached it later with some E6000, which is actually a better glue. And then here is our finished look. Let me know, did I save this piece or would you have left it in the trash? I think it's a cute piece just to stage up in your house, give it a little depth, put a little plant on it, or like I did here, plates or whatever it is you want to decorate with. Little French cottagey kind of vibe here. So let me know what you guys think down in those comments.
If you like my content, please hit that subscribe button and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. Leave me a quick hello down in the comments. Let me know you watch, and thank you all for your support. For project number 2, let's patch up a chip with some air dried clay and use some layers to turn this whole project into something new.
So this piece was a thrift store find, and if you notice, it's just a tall ceramic piece, almost like a pottery piece, and it has this big old chip, but I thought it was a beautiful start to everything. Look at that finial on the top, but we're going to come in and fill in that chip here and make this a whole new piece. Here's the base of the piece as well. I liked it, but once again, that chip and everything just threw everything off. So I'm going to come in with DOS air dry clay. You can find this on Amazon, and I'm just going to come in with a dab of E6000. We're going to cover that gap up so our clay has a place to stick to there. And then I'm sorry I'm off camera a little bit here. We're just going to fill that gap, forming that with my hand and my fingers to the shape of the rim of the piece. Now you don't have to be perfect here because we are going to come in and sand the piece. You want to go ahead and smooth that out at the best you can so that it blends into the surface of your lid here. Now I'm just forming that little edge with my thumb, my fingers, and tapping very lightly to form the piece that I want. And I go ahead and pull that into the inside and add a little extra clay when needed, you guys.
And this is once again the air dry clay. So we're going to let this sit for 24 hours to thoroughly dry. Next, you want to come in with just a soft piece of sandpaper and soften up and blend up all those edges. And then using a can of spray paint by Rust-Oleum here, I am going to thickly spray my lid and start building some texture, pulling off some layers of that paint with just a simple rag here. I'm just building a texture that way and exposing some of that undertone layer, as well as giving this a little bit of a sponging kind of effect here. I repeat that same process for the base of the piece, coming in with that Rust-Oleum, hitting it very thickly over our piece. And then once again coming in with my rag. Any other imperfection in this pottery piece, I'm going to leave as is. I think it's going to add to that vintage kind of vibe or very rustic vibe I am going for. So I'm just going to continue on with this method here, and then we'll let this thoroughly dry. I want to embellish this piece with a little bit of floral, and I kind of want it to cascade at the bottom, hitting under that lid and kind of make it look like it's flowing down. So I'm just coming in with the IOD rub on transfer here from the brocante packet, and I'm going to rub that on with our little tool here. And then once we have that all adhered, you want to come in and varnish that piece, making sure your transfer has a firm bond to your piece. Each IOD packet does come with this little popsicle kind of stick here for your, which is your rubbing tool, and it's very simple. You just rub on your transfer, you pull off the backing. If any transfer does not stick, you just go ahead and place that image back down like I'm doing here. Sorry, off camera again, and then continue the rubbing on that transfer to fix up any mistakes. I added a small piece of transfer to the neck of the lid or the base of the piece, so when I do come in and add that lid, you can see it come cascading down from the lid into the base of our item here. I come back in with another layer of some white paint, and I believe this is chalk paint. I'm going to go over the piece again. Some of my layering didn't quite stick, or I don't know what happened here. I might have even mixed up some footage here, but I'm just coming back in with that base color of a white chalk paint. It's probably most likely a Rust-Oleum paint here by Bear, layering that up like a wax, and then we'll come in and wipe some of that off. Notice that I do go over the transfer as well, and any imperfections that are left in this piece, I'm just going to leave them as is, like mentioned before. I come in a little heavier on these raised pieces to give it more of a definition. And then I come in with Distress Inks Vintage Photo by Tim Holtz, as well as these little blending tones. And I go ahead and add a little bit of aging to this piece. Now, if you like without the aging, you can leave your item like that, but I'm going to come in and grunging this up just a tad. And lastly, I come in with some DIY dark wax and age that up even further. Some of the white is pulling off as well, but we're going to go with that look, exposing some of that undertone. You want to just layer up your wax and wipe off any excess. This will also seal in your products once that wax has time to cure. And here is our finished product. I know it took a process to get this look, but look how beautiful this piece looks now with all that variation of color, tones, and textures that we build with all that layering, stippling, pulling on waxes, pulling them off.
Let me know down in the comments, did I inspire you to pick up broken pieces at your thrift store and give them a whole new look? Shop more IOD, Fusion, and Dixie Belle products with my affiliate link to Julie's Designs and Signs. I have that link in the description, as well as supplies, home decor, and floral. A one-stop shop with a $9 flat rate shipping. So save and reuse my link and help my content here on YouTube. Thank you all for your support.
Let's tackle the second part of our stand using DAW's air dry clay and the ILD's trimming mold. I see a planter, but let me know down in the comments, what do you see?
So here is a little piece that we are going to turn into a planter. And first I'm just going to come in with my tool here and clip off any of the excess material that is popping up from our piece. I want the top as square as I can get it. and as smooth as I can get it here. We're gonna come and transform this into a cute little planner. So let's move on to our layering process. So I actually decided to come in with the Trimmings Form molding here by ILD, and we're just going to layer up this around our piece. Once again, using that same DOS air dry clay, I'm going to form the mold by pressing that clay into our form here. Now this is a beautiful decorative design, and if you notice on the side, there is even a thicker molding there. So that's an idea too, to come in and use that second one, but we are going to stick with this first smaller section. I'm coming in with my little rolling pin here, and I'm going to roll it in, making sure all of that detailing is formed into that clay. Once I do that and clean up all the excess of the edges, we'll go ahead and pull out our molding, and then we have this beautiful design on our piece here. Now I'm just going to layer up the sides of everything, and you're going to see me use one form here. We're going to cut the edges at an angle to go with that form of our little planner we are creating. And then once I have that little form cut out in the way I want it and the shape I want it, we'll come in and do the second piece as well. And if you notice here, I'm leaving that little gap at the bottom with the plain planter just to break up some of that design as well. We don't need it fully covering everything. I think that'll be a cute transition there, giving it a little base kind of look. So I come in with just whatever tool I have on my table and place one form on top of the other and trimming them to the size I need. And then once I have that in there, we'll go ahead and come in with some Gorilla wood glue here, and I will place that onto our mold backing, and then with my finger smoothing it out, making sure I hit all those edges so that the glue permanently adheres to our piece. And then we'll go ahead and place it to one side, and as I work my edges up into the form of our piece here and the top layers overlapping that edge as well, that's going to help the molding here stick to our surface and give us a smoother transition between mold and surface here. So I'm just going to continue all the way around our piece, spreading and forming those edges around our form here, I guess. Coming back in with that second piece, I repeat the process of doing that same thing of rolling over the edges of clay into our surface. Now I did the rest of them off camera, but this is what we have so far with our two panels. And once we have all four panels on our piece, this is what it looks like here. And then we're going to go ahead and let this thoroughly dry. But first we're going to come in with our little paintbrush and some water and smooth out kind of the edges of our clay, blending in those corners a little further, and then helping that transition from one layer of clay to the next. And then after that, we'll go ahead and let this dry thoroughly for 24 hours. So this is how our piece looks the next day, and now I'm just going to come in and add some little grubbiness and paint this up also. We're coming in with drop cloth by Dixie Belle Paints, and you can go ahead and use my affiliate link and shop all those paint colors of your choice. I'm going to give this one coat of this nice creamy color here, and then we're going to go ahead and come in with some antique wax by Baron. We're going to dingy this up just a tad, highlighting and adding a little bit more dimension. I am using a little bit of a swirling method here just because there's so much detail in this. I want to get into all those crevices. Now this is an old Bear can here, but we will be transitioning to our new one pretty soon. But I'm just going to mix in a little bit of that Bear antique wax with some Dixie Belle clear wax, and we are just going to go ahead and add in some aging effect, making sure I offload my brush. And I'm going light-handed here, and I'm going to layer up the first layer and then blend in with a rag. And then we'll go ahead and continue the process until the full piece is covered with that layer and wiping off any excess. Now, You don't have to do this part. You can totally skip this part if you like that white tone, but I wanted a little bit of age to this piece, and I wanted more of that filigree to stand out a little bit more than what it was doing with just that plain white surface. So I'm going to go ahead and do the edges as well, deepening that tone. And once I have the color I want, layering, I came in with a little bit highlight even over there. I found this pot in my stash. I probably got it, believe, from Target. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out the greenery. The pot did not fit with it. So I'm going to make this a transitional piece. So if you want to pull out this greenery and add a different greenery, you can. And you can even use this as a little riser. That's another thought here, is just to put a little square instead of greenery in this hole and make this a cute little riser. But I went ahead and went with the greenery here, and then we're going to go ahead and add some little feet here. You won't necessarily see the feet, but I'll give it a little detail and a little bit of height, just so that it doesn't sit flushly on a book or wherever you put it. With a mixture of E6000 and hot glue, I am going to come in and add our little butt feet, and these are just half little beads that I had in my stash. First coming in with that E6000 for that permanent hold, and that hot glue just to help us hold it in place for now until that permanent glue dries. I'm going to go ahead and place all four on these little tabs here. I will go ahead and paint the bottom as well, but look how cute this little faux pot came out from a piece of trash or a broken piece. I hope you guys enjoyed this project. I love how it came out, a very cottagey kind of farmhouse look here, and you can transition it in so many ways, changing out that piece, making it into a little riser. Let me know what you guys think of this piece. I think it's cute, but let me know. Well, everybody, we have reached the end of our video. I thank you guys all for joining me for today's video, and I hope it inspired you to pick up some broken pieces of your own, or go through those pieces and figure out how to transform them. Don't forget to comment and hit that like button on your way out to help my channel so much. I appreciate you guys all for being here, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, friends.